Today's topic for editorial discussion is the Delhi Ordinance is an unabashed power grab. The Delhi Ordinance is an unabashed power grab. So what this article deals with, or what is the context in which this article was in use, is that on May 11th, recent developments with respect to Delhi and the control of civil services there. Control of civil services in the sense regular services there. So yes, on May 11th, there was this thing, there was a verdict led by a bench of Supreme Court, a 5-judge constitutional bench led by our CJI DY Chandrachud. That bench gave a verdict that Delhi government, the elected government of Delhi, has legislative and administrative powers over the services of Delhi. So in retaliation, it is so extreme to call it a retaliation, but yes, the union government has introduced an ordinance on May 19th after the verdict. After exactly 7-8 days after the verdict, the union government has introduced an ordinance with respect to the services. What the ordinance says is that it brings this new authority called the National Capital Civil Services Authority. National Capital Civil Services Authority, with members such as, there are 3 members in total. The CM is the member, and Chief Secretary, and also the Principal Secretary of Home. CM, Chief Secretary, and Principal Secretary Home. So these are the 3 members. So this authority is what gets to decide about the services in Delhi. So the thing is, the catch here is that this authority, it works on the principle of majority. Majority in the sense, there is this thing, one democratically elected chief, that is the Chief Minister of Delhi, is there, along with 2 union government appointed IAS officers or Central Services Office, All India Services officers. So yes, this gives a scope that there can be some sort of bias. If majority is taken, the views of the Chief Minister can be overridden by the other 2 union government appointed officers. So this is what the major criticism placed on the National Capital Civil Services Authority. And not only that, another thing is that if there is any kind of clash between the views of the authority and that of the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi's views are to stand out. So that is what will hold water. So this is also another thing to override the powers of the authority, even though the views of the Chief Ministers is accepted or is prevailing. If it clashes with that of the Lieutenant Governor, the Lieutenant Governor's views is what will prevail. So this is the issue here, and this article, it throws a lot of words such as asymmetric federalism and ordinances. So what we are going to see is that what is asymmetric federalism. You know the context now, right? So yes, we will see what is asymmetric federalism and see what is ordinance and what are the powers under the ordinance for governor and president, and the safeguards for ordinances and the merits and demerits of ordinances. So yes, first we have this asymmetric federalism. So symmetry, we all know that is something that is equal. Yes, we can call it as equal. Yes, symmetry is something that is equal. So symmetric federalism is that treating everyone equally, each and every state equally. So on the other hand, asymmetric federalism is that differences in the status of regional units that make up a federalism with respect to their executive and legislative powers. That is, there are various differences amongst states with respect to the legislative and executive powers. For instance, in the Indian context, there are a lot of things called as the Article 370. The erstwhile Article 370 was there, and 371 accords special status for certain states such as Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Goa, Karnataka. Such states, 371 A, B, C and all is there. It gives special status for such states, and union territories. All union territories come under the ambit of government. So as the name suggests, but the union territories of Pondicherry and Delhi are quite bit different. So this also inculcates the Article 239 AA and Article 239A. It inculcates a spirit of asymmetric model with respect to union territories of Pondicherry and Delhi also. And also we have this 5th schedule and 6th schedule states. All these they are being treated differently. So why are they being treated differently is that there are a lot of differences with respect to ethnicity, with respect to the region, with respect to the demography. and also the developmental spectrum. In all these ways, all states are not equal, but they are different in different aspects. One has high ethnicity, one is doing well in the developmental spectrum, and one is lagging behind. In order to inculcate all these states into one federation, one union, we have followed the system of asymmetric federalism, and it is evident from such cases such as the erstwhile 370, 371, yes, 5th and 6th schedules and union territories of Pondicherry and Delhi. So when talking about asymmetric federalism, there is two things that cannot be missed. There are two dimensions which cannot be missed. These dimensions were given by Ronald Watts, a person named Ronald Watts. The two instances or two dimensions are political and constitutional. So what does political asymmetric federalism mean? So political asymmetric federalism deals with the territory, demographics, the population, the region, the geography and all. So deals with the territory, basically it deals with the territory, geography and demographic. Demographic in the sense it deals with the population differences, territorial differences and geographical differences and all. So that is what political asymmetric federalism is all about. And constitutional asymmetric federalism, it is about the extension of powers, legislative and executive powers. So that is what the constitutional asymmetric federalism mean. Basically there are two dimensions to federalism. One is the political federalism and the constitutional federalism given by Ronald Watts. So political federalism in the sense it deals with territories, demographics and population. With respect to constitutional, it deals with the extension of powers such as the legislative and executive powers. So yes, moving on to ordinances. So we all know we at least have an idea of what an ordinance is. Ordinance is something that is used as an extraordinary device, not like to legislate. It is like a temporary law. It is like a temporary law, not a permanent law. Article 123 and 213 entrusts the President and Governor with ordinance making powers respectively. So in times of urgent need, immediate action, if immediate action is needed, the President or Governor can promulgate ordinances when the Parliament or the state legislature is not in session respectively. So this is a extraordinary power given to the President and Governor by the Constitution under Article 123 and 230. So yes, the time period, the time frame of the validity of ordinances is that of 6 months and 6 weeks. So yes, it cannot prolong after 6 months and 6 weeks. So yes, that is what an ordinance is. There are a lot of issues with respect to ordinances. Some say it has very good merits, and some criticize it as it is against the essence of democracy. Yes, there are people divided with respect to the usage of ordinance. So yes, we will see what are the merits of ordinances and what are the demerits of ordinances also. So yes, the first thing to be noted here, the first merit is that it is quick and effective. Quick and effective in the sense, yes, a legislation, it takes time. Legislation, it takes time. It takes time in the sense it has to go to Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, it has to be discussed and passed there, and it has to be sent to the other house, and that house has to pass it, and then it has to go to the President's assent, and all these things takes time. So an immediate form, when the Parliament is not in session, when there is an immediate action needed, one of the quick and most effective and efficient form of legislation is that of the ordinance route. So yes, we can take the ordinance route for quick and effective legislations. So yes, quick and effective is one of the merits of ordinances. And policy implementation. Policy implementation without any legislative hurdles. Legislative hurdles in the sense we are faced with emergencies. Let us assume we are faced with a sudden emergency and the Parliament is not in session. So it is a very big thing to call the Parliament, to summon the Parliament and all. But yes, what we can do is that we can use the ordinance route to bring legislations. For instance, during COVID times and all, there was this urgent need for the Essential Commodities Act to be changed. There were talks to repeal such acts, but COVID brought the importance of Essential Commodities Act. So the Parliament was not in session at that time. So what happened is that President promulgated the Essential Commodities Ordinance, and then it was later changed into an act, and that is all other story that we to be discussed later. So yes, it gives us policy implementation when there are legislative hurdles. That is the second merit of ordinances. And accountability of the executive. Yes, what ordinance do is that it reflects the responsiveness and accountability of the executive. In a place of legislative vacuum, the executive can do anything they want. Anything they want in the sense within the constitutional parameters and constitutional foreground only. They can do, they can take matters into their hand. But what they are doing is that they are portraying us, they are showing us that they are accountable and they are responsive. They are responsible to the electorate and they are accountable to the electorate. This is shown, this ordinance is being used as a tool to portray their accountability and responsibility also in times of legislative vacuums. So yes, that is another thing. It portrays the accountability of the executive. So these are the three merits that we have about ordinances. Now moving on to the demerits. Demerits is that there are a lot of views with respect to demerits, and so that is why there are a lot of points than merits. So yes, first, bypass democratic lawmaking. We have already seen that, right? Democratic lawmaking with respect to a parliamentary democracy passes through a lot of stages. If it is a unicameral legislature, only one house will pass, discuss and deliberate in that one house. If it is a bicameral legislature, it will pass through both the houses and then go to the head of the state for his or her assent. So yes, here what is happening, what is one of the demerit that people are accusing or criticizing the ordinance is that it bypasses the democratic lawmaking. There is no process of discussion or deliberation amongst the houses or the one single house, and ordinances outright can be passed with the assent of by the president. So this is what they are accusing, and it opposes or it bypasses the democratic process of lawmaking. Second is the separation of powers undermined. The principle of separation of, they also accuse or criticize ordinance making power as it infringes or undermines the principle of separation of powers. We all know separation of powers, there are three fundamental organs of the state: the legislature, executive and the judiciary. And our system, it is based on checks and balances, and we try to keep every sphere as it is, alone, separate. There should not be any indulgence in the other sphere. So yes, but what people are accusing is that ordinances, legislation is a power, or it is a responsibility of the parliament or the legislature. But here on the other side, the use of ordinances is making it to be a executive function. This is a form of an executive legislation. It is a form of an executive democracy and not that of a parliamentary democracy. So that is what the critics of ordinances are giving us. So yes, the critics of ordinances, they hold that ordinances encroach upon the powers of the legislature and it is against the principle of separation of powers. So that is the second demerit. And moving on to the third demerit, we have misuse for political gains. Misuse and for political gains. There are a lot of reasons, a lot of instances in the past where ordinances have been misused, and it has always been used against, always in the sense, mostly being used against, used for political gains. So yes, that is one very reality that has been witnessed in the past, and that in the recent times there is no event such as those. But in the past, it is a true reality. It has been used, it has been misused, and it has been used for political gains also. So yes, the fourth point is overuse and repromulgation. Overuse and repromulgation. So at the starting stages when the constitution was born, the ordinance making power, it was like the ordinance making powers were emergency powers. It was to be used as a last resort. It was to be used as a last resort and all. But the history is filled with examples. The history is filled with examples where it has been fairly used. And recent reports say throughout the history of India, ordinances have been constantly have been in usage, or that they have been used regularly or used often. So this is what certain reports say also. So this shows that ordinance is an extraordinary power that has to be used as a last resort or in times of emergency is being overused and used fairly often. Repromulgation is nothing but promulgating the ordinance again and again. That is what, as the name suggests, repromulgation. Promulgating the ordinance again and again without taking any steps to bring an effective legislation to replace the ordinance. So yes, that is what repromulgation is, and there are a lot of instances with respect to. There is one singular instance where in Bihar the governor he repromulgated ordinances an n number of times. So yes, these are all instances where ordinances have been repromulgated without taking any measures to replace the ordinance by a legislation. So yes, these are the various demerits of ordinances. So even though it has both merits and it is a mixed bag of merits and demerits, it holds water. in times of emergency such as that of the COVID and all such things to good use. We can put ordinances to good use. But there are also certain safeguards. Safeguards in the sense there are also certain barriers that restrict the powers of the ordinance. So for one such judicial safeguard is that of R.C. Cooper case. The R.C. Cooper case, the Supreme Court held that the Supreme Court held the constitutionality of its judicial review. In the sense, it also said that ordinances can be questioned by the court of law under the principle of immediate action was not warranted there. Under the question, immediate action was not warranted there. Under this question, the ordinances can be questioned in the court of law. So that is what is the verdict under the R.C. Cooper case. And the D.C. Wadhwa case, the court held, and in the D.C. Wadhwa case, the court held that repromulgation of ordinances is unconstitutional. You cannot go on repromulgating ordinances without taking any effective measures or steps to replace it by a effective legislation. So yes, repromulgation of ordinances is unconstitutional. So that is what it was held. It was the verdict in D.C. Wadhwa case. So this is what ordinances, this is what this article is all about. It talks about asymmetric federalism and ordinances on the whole. So yes, thank you.